expect the Cowboys will fully evaluate Cam Newton and whether he improves their chances to win, just as they do all available veteran players. His vaccination status will surely be a part of the discussion since he just missed 5 days. Max?
Yep.
Should the Cowboys give Cam a call?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a no-brainer, of course. First of all, what are you looking for in a backup quarterback? Number one is strength at the position. That's before you get to even having a guy who can approximate the starter. You want a strong guy behind the starter in case something happens. Has Dak been hurt recently? Yeah. Had Joe Theismann on my radio show. Why is the shoulder a problem? Because the lower extremity injury, you need to make that up somewhere. Winds up with the shoulder. The lower extremity bone is connected to the shoulder bone, or however the saying goes, right? And there are other bones there, too, that can go wrong. And so the point is, Cam is coming off a season. I will say this for the umpteenth time. When last seen healthy in a system he knew, he was 6-2. 6-2 with a completion percentage about 70%. Norv Turner is his OC. Hasn't been right physically or with a team he really knew since then. So 6-2, 70% completion, give or take. Then he pops up with the Patriots. COVID year, no preseason, no practice. What is Belichick's real advantage he gives you? He can prepare, can't really. New teammates, no offensive weapons. He's got nothing. That's why Brady left. The defense, 9 guys said, nope, COVID, we're not going to play. No defense, no tight ends, no nothing. 2 plays away from 9-7. 2 plays away. By the way, he got COVID, and his play was not the same again. Still, 2 plays away from 9-7. And so showed flashes, like in that Seattle game early in the season against Russell Wilson. So could he be a strong backup? Yeah, he competed with the great Mac Jones all of a sudden, right? Like, that was not easy. Cam Newton, game 2 of this preseason, looked really good to me. I thought he took the lead. Okay, so strength at the position. What's the next thing? Approximate the starter's style, right? Now, well, Cam Newton's no Dak Prescott, right? Because if he was, then he'd be the starter. I get it. The backup's going to have some warts, right? But basically, Dak is a physically strong guy who can throw the ball and obviously also run. Cam can't throw like Dak. If he could, he wouldn't be in this predicament right now. But he can still move. And he's an even bigger, stronger guy. So he can roughly approximate some of the things Dak can do. And then finally, you think Jerry Jones wouldn't love that story? Jerry Jones, something happens to Dak, Cam comes in, the Cowboys go on a run.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be able to resist it. They got to call Cam.
No, absolutely. And I want to bring in Dan Orlovsky. The only thing I would caution, Max, is the best ability for a quarterback would be availability. And here we have a guy that's coming off an ankle and also a shoulder, and now bringing in a guy who we know is unvaccinated and would miss 5 days every time he comes into contact. Dan, give me your thoughts. Do you think the Cowboys should give Cam a call?
No brainer. Absolutely they should. Couple of reasons, Molly. First of all, this is a team that believes that they are a playoff caliber football team and maybe a championship caliber football team. When you are in that small grouping in the NFL, and candidly, there's about 8 or 10 teams every year that are in that group, that it's legit for them. You cannot risk having to lose your starter for a game or two and then not having a capable backup. Just imagine if we fast forward to December or November, something like that. Dak Prescott has had to miss a game or two. God forbid, hope it doesn't happen. And the Cowboys are out of the playoff picture. We will be on television killing them because they did not have a capable backup. Cooper Rush, I believe, has thrown 3 passes in the NFL. This is coming from a guy that was predominantly a backup quarterback. Most fans outside of the Dallas Cowboy fan base don't know who Cooper Rush is. That's not meant to be disrespectful. This would be negligent if the Cowboys did not address this. If the Cowboys did not make the call and say, hey, to be abundantly clear, Cam Newton, Dak Prescott is the starting quarterback here. There is 0 chance that you ever have the opportunity to be our starter unless he gets hurt. Is this something you're willing to come and be a part of? Because if the Cowboys don't do this, they're going into a enormously important season and one of the most important positions with the giant question mark. And Molly, I'll take it further. The Cowboys should call. The Tennessee Titans should call because they're in the same situation. Yeah. The Ravens, the Seahawks, and the Falcons should all make the call to figure out where he stands and is he willing to be a backup.
Pittsburgh Steelers, too.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, and I hear both of you. Dan, I hear you. Max, I hear you. The Cowboys, yeah, I mean, you could say they should call, but if the Cowboys call, Cam shouldn't pick up. Cam is not a backup quarterback. Like, he's not. Like, let's not, like I understand, like, there are guys who want to have a longer career in the NFL and extend their time, maybe play for 3 or 4 or 5 more years as a backup with the team. But that's not Cam. Cam is a starting quarterback in the NFL. We talk about it, man. He's got that confidence, that ego, that swagger. He's not taking that to go and back up Dak Prescott. Even if Dak Prescott is injured and then Cam comes in, it's not Cam's team. It's always going to be Dak Prescott's team. So from an ego standpoint, from a who I am as a player standpoint, if I'm Cam and Dallas calls, I don't pick up. Number one. Max, number two, you talked about how, Cam looked good, went healthy, 6-2, and in the second preseason game, he looked solid. But did you watch the third preseason game? Cam looked not very good. His arm didn't look very good. It was bouncing balls off of the ground. It looked like basketball
Skipping rocks
at times, right? And so Cam, when healthy, looks great. But Cam right now, as from what it looks like to us on film, Cam is not healthy, which is part of the reason why he lost that starting spot. So you talked about that. You talked about as well, like, and even just going back to Dan's point, like all those teams that you mentioned could use a backup quarterback. They all could use it. But you got to think about this. Like, there's this thing about like self-confidence, self-efficacy, right? Like, we think that what we do right now is the only thing. I got to do this and I got to extend my career. I don't want to see Cam Newton limp through his last few years of his NFL career, right? Last year, you could say it was a struggle, right? He led a losing record, but he scored 12 touchdowns rushing. I want to see Cam Newton walk off into the sunset, Super Bowl MVP of the NFL 2015, and then go on to whatever's next in his life.
He's 32 and he wants to play football still.
That's what I want to see. He doesn't want to back up. He doesn't want to be a backup. You think he wants to sit on the bench behind Dak Prescott?
He doesn't want to do that. Got to do sometimes.
Do you think he wants to sit on the bench behind Dak, behind Ryan Tannehill, behind Ben Roethlisberger, behind all those quarterbacks that we named? Cam does not want to do that. If I were Cam, I would want to do that. Put it that way.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.